Hi. So we put this video together as a quick tutorial for DMs who have had to cancel their local games because of the coronavirus and aren't quite sure how to get themselves running up on online. It's not a video for people who really want to embrace Roll20 and move their games up online permanently. This is just to get yourself set up with the minimum viable game. So your players already have their character sheets, they already have their dice, they can roll them and tell you what the results are. That's what they do at the table. Roll20 can reproduce all this stuff. There's no need to create that initially. Let your players, let yourself get comfortable with the experience, and then pick up the rest of the features later, when and if you're ready. Okay, before we set up a game, I do want to point out that Roll20 does have a wiki. It's wiki.roll20, sorry, wiki.roll20.net. That's a great resource to try to figure out how to do things if you get stuck. Google, Reddit, also great resources. But let's get quickly started. Setting up a game, pretty straightforward. You click the new game button, you give it a name. I recommend adding in a character sheet, even though I just said you're probably not going to use them. I'll point out why later. It's also good to choose one now, just because if you do decide to use them later, you don't want it to follow anything up that one of your players may or may not have created. So we're going to create the game. Give it a second. And then go ahead and launch the game. Just so that you're aware, a couple things right off the bat. Up in the top right hand corner there is a link. You have to hover over it, but this is the link that you'll share with your players so that they'll be able to find the games without having to look through any directories. When you arrive, again, there's some toolbar options here. This is the select and move. You're always going to want to go back to this when you're working. We'll go through some of the other ones. But what we do want to focus on is this page toolbar. This will show you all the pages that you've created within your campaign. The red bar is indicating what your players are currently looking at. The blue box is what you're currently looking at. I do recommend setting up some sort of landing page so that when your players arrive, you can sort of point them. They have a place to sort of gather, chat, whatever. It's also a great place to put in, if you're not using Roll20 for audio, if you're using Discord or Google Hangouts or something like that, it's a great place to put those links in. If you're an Adventurers League DM and you want to provide your DCI number, it's also a great place to put. But anything you put on this page is visible to them. But let's actually create a new page. Puts it up, untitled. Let's give it a name. I'm going to use a map from Deuce for the Dead. Pretty straightforward map. I've already copied it. Let's rename that. All right, so first thing I want to point out is that there are multiple layers to any given map. There is the object and tokens. This is really your play area. This is where all your players are going to move their miniatures around. You're going to drop the monsters. You're going to drop effects. Whatever you're doing, this is going to be where you work out of. The map in the background is underneath that, and the reason why that's important is you don't want to be moving things around and actually drag your map 5 feet, because that will be catastrophic to some games. But what we want to do first is we want to upload your map. In my library I have a whole bunch of things already, but I've got a map prepared. It's on my desktop, and it's on my desktop. You'll see the gray bar there. If that bar hangs out for way too long, and you don't see the item appear over on the right, your file may be too big. There is a maximum upload size of 100 megs, I think it is. Plus, if you have a free account, you don't have that much. So you may want to play around with your images before you upload them. Um, Very simply, I'm on the, let's double check, I'm on the map and background. When I drag it on, great, no problem. Um, Got to remember to go back to select and move. Otherwise, I'll be trying to type on the map. So if I select that, I can resize it just like any other two-dimensional object in most programs. It will snap to the grid. If you don't like that, you can change that by turning off the grid. You can also set hex if you are doing something outdoors and you want to go old school with that. So the other thing that you can do with this is if you know the size of this map, it's got its own grids and whatnot, and you've counted it out. You can also set the dimensions manually. If I know that it's supposed to be 30 by 50 or 50 by 30, I can set it. That doesn't look quite big enough because this map is supposed to be 10 foot. That's supposed to be a 10-foot cell. So maybe I'll go. That's better. Probably not exact, but for this demonstration, it should be fine. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. You can already see that the map is too big for this page, so I'm going to go back and give the page settings the same dimensions I just gave the, and then when I put it on here, it should fit more or less. There we go. All right, so you are, one of the things that's really nice, I'm going to go back to my objects and tokens so that I don't accidentally move the map around when I drag. A couple things really quickly that are really nice to have. First is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You've got players that are on this section of the map and you want to drag their attention down to this section. You can either ping, and a little press and hold the mouse button down will give a ping. Or you can hold the shift key down and press and hold the mouse, and you notice my screen shifted. Their screens will also shift to that point as well. So very useful. So where this is also kind of useful is if you are going to set up what's called fog of war. So this is a big map. Zoom back out. And I clearly don't want the players to be able to know, well, I don't want to go down this way because obviously it doesn't go anywhere. So what we do is we do a fog of war on the map. Again, to the page settings, turn on fog of war, and then I click OK. Now my screen's gone gray. Their screen will go black, and you can tell that because if you go to the top right and you go to my settings, you can rejoin this as a player, and you will see what they see. Oop, they will. Let's go back. The reason why you're not seeing anything is, and I do this all the time, and you will too, you got to change their view before you switch over. So they just see a black screen. You will be able to center them where you want, but they won't be able to see anything until you change the open up some areas. All right, so I'm going to move down here because on this map, this is where they come in, and I do want them to be able to see what they would see when the characters come down. You can do two items, reveal areas, or polygon reveal. I like the polygon reveal because of the fact that it allows me to draw lines and be very precise in how I reveal the. And when I right click or I hit the escape button, it will do the area. So, right. So, this is the only part of the object that they will see. Everything else will be black, and then you can sort of add more areas as they progress through the dungeon. So, but of course, then you need to put characters on the map. So some of this can be very easy. If you go to in the top right, you have an art library, which is the second icon. You can upload all sorts of icons that you want. You can also look at the premium assets. They have a lot of free stuff in here. So this is a dungeon, and you can imagine that there are probably undead that are going to start jumping out. So here's a skeleton. I'm just going to click and drag. It's on the map. Now, doing it this way, the players will not be able to click on this item. You can move it around. If you go to the select and move, you will be able to move it around as you see fit. However, if you do this for a player icon, they can't. Okay, and so the way we have to do that is in the journal, which is the third icon up here, we have to create a character. Okay, if I then go back to the characters and I grab a soldier for the fighter, drag it in. Okay, let's give him a name. Yeah, not that original, I know. What you'll also want to do is change who it can be edited by. As people log in, this list will populate with more and more people. You can also set it so that it's all players. You can set it so that it's only yourself. So I hit save change. Bob the Warrior is now here, and now there's an icon on the screen that your players will be able to move around, to change, to adjust. Now it's going to get confusing real quick. So if you click on it and you hit this gear, you can create a nameplate. So you type the name in, do the nameplate, click save. Hey, there's Bob. So, all right, and you can do this for a whole bunch of people. I'll do another one really quickly. Drag it onto the screen, turn on the nameplate. All right. So far, so good. All right. Where this becomes useful, let's give the skeleton a nameplate too. Because one of the things that we can do, you might have noticed that when I select these guys, if I right click on them, I can choose add turn. Now, what did that just do? Well, it put them into the turn order. So this is your initiative card. Okay. As players learn more and more about this, they can add their initiative in an automated fashion. But if they just roll the dice and tell you, hey, Bob says he got a 15, Evan said he got a 3, and you roll for the skeleton and you got a 6 or an 8, then you can just sort of hit the gear down here at the bottom, hit numerically descending, and it will put it in turn order. Bob goes, you hit the little arrow. Now it's the skeleton's turn, and so forth. You can also add in for games where there might be lair actions or other stuff that you don't necessarily want the players to see. You can create custom items. So lair action. They will see this one, but if I create an icon, or I create something and I put it on the GM level, it'll show up in this turn order, but the players won't be able to see it. So, all right. And that should be enough to get you started, to get your players online. There's a lot more out there. You guys will figure it out. But if you were playing a week or so ago across a table, I hope this was enough to give you guys the chance to play online and keep enjoying the game.